But my first guest, I want to welcome him here. It's our lieutenant, and it's Lieutenant, and it's Matt Isham.
Yes.
Am I pronouncing right, Matt? Matt's with us today, and we're gonna explore together, with his help, a crisis intervention training, the crisis intervention program in our city, and. First, of course, Matt, I always say that, I like my guests to share a little bit about their background and how they got from where they began until now they're entered into the field of law enforcement and now into the profession that you're doing and the particular role you're doing. So could you share a little bit about where you come from
Sure,
and how you got here?
I'd be happy to. I was born up in northern Vermont in St. Albans on the Canadian border. I went to college at Castleton State College, got a bachelor's degree in history and criminal justice. And then as I was getting out of school, I got really interested in law enforcement. So I started my career up at Franklin County Sheriff's Department in 1994. I worked up there in the jail on doing patrol on the road. I had a friend in New Hampshire from college that said, come to New Hampshire, come to New Hampshire. Okay. So I got hired in Claremont in 1996. I worked down there, and I came up to Lebanon in 2003 with my canine. And I worked on the road. I retired him. I got promoted to corporal. In Claremont, I had done some prosecution. Here in Lebanon, the prosecution opened up. And so I stepped into that. I've been doing that since 2007.
Yeah, I wonder how many people really recognize that our police department, and you in particular, provide prosecutorial services with regards to particular kinds of things. Could you just state a few things about how that works?
Sure. New Hampshire is kind of a different state. It allows misdemeanor cases and below, so violations, misdemeanors, to be prosecuted by police officers. And you don't have to have a law degree. Majority of them we go to a training at the police standards and training 2 weeks, and then it's just on-the-job training, and you're doing everything a state's attorney would do without having a law degree. So you're learning under fire, and you're presenting evidence in front of the district court, DWI trials, domestic assaults. And then also doing family juvenile petitions and that type of.
Do you enjoy that kind of work?
I love it.
That's good.
That's exciting.
Obviously, as a formerly practicing attorney, no longer practicing attorney, nothing better than being Perry Mason because you always win your case. So, do you always win your case, Matt?
We try and do our best.
Good. We really appreciate the work that Matt does down for us in the courts. And then today, Matt, we are going to look into our question about crisis management in our community, and in looking at crisis management, our program, we got a crisis intervention program, and we also have some training that's offered under that. So could you kind of fill in the blanks for the listening residents as to what that program's about?
Sure, and it actually comes right out of my prosecution role, because you notice in the courts that we have a lot of people that they're really probably aren't there because they're criminals. They're there because they have some type of mental illness that they weren't able to deal with, which brought them in contact with the police. Because, we're kind of the catch-all. We always end up, if someone has a problem, somebody can't get help, they call the police go there, and we're supposed to help them. And we only have so many tools. So as I'm seeing these people that have mental illnesses in the court system, I'm saying, what can we do to not put them in jail? Because it's not helping them when they're in jail.
Yeah.
So we started a mental health court, and out of the mental health court, I went to a training, and I learned all about this CIT, crisis intervention training, crisis intervention teams. And I'm like, what is this crisis intervention team? So in looking at that, crisis intervention team program is giving officers on the street that come in contact with people that are in mental illness crises every day, giving them specialized training to help them identify the person is suffering in crisis, has a mental illness, de-escalating them from their crisis, and then the third part of it is to divert them out of the criminal justice system if possible.
Yes.
To get them the treatment. Are they off their medications? Do they need to get back into contact with their doctors to get back level again so they can then function as they were? So based on that's how I got back. Rochester Police Department, there's a sergeant there. He's kind of the guru of crisis intervention for the state. And I got in contact with him, and I was able to work with Dartmouth-Hitchcock, West Central Behavioral Health, the New Hampshire Hospital. It's a community effort, and I was able to put a training together to get 10 of our officers certified in crisis intervention.
Oh, that's great. Now, because although I've been here to about 2 years and a couple months so far here, but over my lifetime, I have, I think I started out as a public defender, and part of it, we had a contract in which we provided the defenses to mental health commitments. And there's been quite a bit of change in the mental health field since I started in 1974. And there was a lot of state institutionalization going on, and then is now moved to a local delivery system. And
yes.
So and there have been some problems, I know, in my other experiences in other parts of the United States with providing services on the local level, because there's quite an influx of persons that no longer are now in our communities. In the past, have not necessarily been in the communities, and there seems to be a lot of benefit of the fact they're in our communities. To be a more productive, sustainable way of approaching people with mental health issues. But it does put quite a strain in terms of the need. And I've talked, and I'm gonna try to get the behavioral services folks from mental health in here too, because we provide some funding for them, and I know that they're having some difficulty sometimes in funding and meeting needs. So
that's a lot of it, the funding.
Yeah. So is it changed over this period of time? Is there more, or maybe it's more recognition? I don't know. Is it more people that have mental health issues, or more recognition of their mental health?
Since you mentioned that, in 1953, the New Hampshire Hospital had an average population of 2,750 people. That's how many beds they had. And today, they have a population on average of 145.
See, what a dramatic jump.
Because of all the lawsuits in the 70s and everything. It took people out of institutions, put them out in the community, which a lot of people should be in the community. The services should be provided locally. In 1990, New Hampshire was, the National Alliance of Mental Illness said New Hampshire was one of the top providers of mental health care in the community. Mm-hmm. And now, just in 2011, the Concord Monitor and the articles right now, mental health in New Hampshire is in crisis. A lot of it is budget, because if you put more people in the community, you need to provide more, and they do the best they can. They provide as much as they can. But also, that's putting more people in the community who may not be adequately getting the services, and therefore it brings the police involved. Because, as I said, we're the people that get called in the middle of the night when someone's in crisis.
Could you outline for us maybe how someone gets into our system, as an example, hypothetically, and then encounters, having particular experience themselves with their mental health issues, and they're into the criminal system, and then how does our crisis and intervention mode work to meet that situation?
Someone may be suffering from mental illness and just act out. They'll start breaking things. They'll start, and the family doesn't know what else to do. Can't calm them down. They may push their family members because they don't know. They think they don't know what else to do, and that's how they act out. Yeah. So then we get called as police. What this training does is it allows us to have coverage across all shifts, because these are patrol people. They're patrolmen, patrol women that are getting this training. We identify that, there might be a mental health crisis here. We get one of these special training officers there. And with the training, like I said, they can identify it, and they can provide a more compassionate, more humane approach to dealing with this person, get them out of their crisis, and then figure out if they can help them. Do they need to go to the hospital to seek treatment? Rather than, and that's how the whole training evolved. It's taking more time, and it's about doing what's right, because the old, when I first started, you'd go to a call like that, you'd go in, and you'd be there within 5-10 minutes, you've taken care of the problem, you've removed the problem, and you're gone. Yeah. This training says, wait, stop, take 10-15 minutes, talk to the person one-on-one, and try to find out, get them calm so you can deal with them. It doesn't, in the big part of it, it doesn't mean they don't get arrested. It may not mean they don't get charged, but it may put them to a mental health provider first so they can get that services, and not just take them, put them in jail, and then the crisis just keeps going.
Keeps going. Do we have any idea about the level of the workload for our officers as they're in the field, and then our training officers who come to provide assistance? What kind of workload we're encountering in terms of any kind of sense of, is this quite a few cases? Is it a lot of cases?
We deal with, I'd say every day someone's dealing with somebody who has a mental illness, one way or another.
So it's a daily matter.
It's an ongoing matter, absolutely. And it's just, but they're still doing their regular duties. It's just, their patrol out. They're doing what they're, tasked to do.
Yes.
But now, if we identify as a special situation, they then have the tools to go forward and to assist with that.
And in order to do this training, to understand the techniques and the proper procedures and practices, where do you go to get this kind of training?
We held the training right here in Lebanon. It's a 40-hour training. It consists of, as I said, all these agencies came in and helped teach. It's all the agencies all volunteered because they realized how important it is. Nobody was paid to come teach for us. But it teaches about mental illnesses, what they are, borderline personality, other disorders, substance abuse, suicide prevention, Alzheimer's, autism, the civil commitment process, de-escalation skills, and then at the end of the week, we actually have mental health professionals come in and be role players.
Okay.
And then the officers actively have to engage them and try to de-escalate them, and take care of whatever the issue may be.
Actually experience.
So it's hands-on. And if you don't complete 40 hours, then you're not certified as a crisis intervention.
Well, that's great. And you mentioned in our last couple of minutes, you mentioned trying to divert and going to diversionary approaches. So people just don't go into go right into the criminal system and that.
Right.
What kind of diversion programs, what are their options?
When I say divert, I mean as in, rather than go to jail, they go to Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center and get, which then they may be sent to Concord Hospital if they meet the criteria to be admitted there, or they may go in-house at Dartmouth Hitchcock. So it's not like a diversion program, it's more of diverting them from a criminal justice solution to a mental health solution, and getting them to where they should be.
In our closing comments, are there some messages or some comments that you want to make sure that the public is aware of in dealing in your field?
Mostly just, we understand there's a problem, and we want to help, because that's what we're paid, that's what we're tasked to do. We help society. We're here to protect, to serve. But we don't, it's not a free ticket for everybody too. Just because you may have a mental illness, if you commit crimes, you still have to face those consequences. But we just try to do it in a more humane, compassionate way. And as I said before, it's doing the right thing for the right reason.
Thank you very much, Matt. We want to thank our lieutenant for being here. This is another illustration of our police department in providing the basic services of law enforcement in a modern 21st century community that's trying to be sustainable and to work and support those in our community and helping them achieve some sufficiency in terms of how they handle their lives. So once again, we show that we see the quality of the work of the police department, and we extend our thanks as a city manager. I always think highly and always thinking of our police officers each time they're going to responding, and not know quite what they're going to get into, and that they have this different equipment, not just the tools of law enforcement, actually the way the thinking is and how it might be approached. So we want to thank Matt for being here. We want to thank all the officers that engage and become certified for helping us look into how we better can serve those who have mental health issues in our community. Each of us probably know someone with a mental health issue. They are our friends, our relatives, they are their neighbors, so they are part of us, and so we want to be appreciative and try to find ways of serving them as well as protecting the entire community. Thank you very much today.
I'd like to thank you too.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.